Hi guys, welcome back to my channel for a brand new mystery with Molly, and in today's video I'm going to be doing another collab. Today I'm going to be collabing with one of my great friends here on YouTube, daughter of Remus. We actually did a collab only a few weeks ago as part of True Crime Collab Month, and we decided to film another one because so many people really enjoyed it last time, so here you are, you got another one. So today, me and daughter of Remus are going to be discussing the unsolved case of Valerie Graves, and we have also filmed a video over on her channel, which I will link up there in the iCard, and I'll also link it in the description. So make sure as soon as you have watched this video, you head on straight over to her channel and give her video a watch. Before I get into the case, I just want to clarify that my intent with these videos is never to offend or upset anyone that may have been involved in the case. All the information I have found on this case has been from several different places online, such as articles and documentaries and stuff like that, so I do apologise if anything is incorrect, or if you think that I've missed something out that is really important to the case, please feel free to let me know in the comments. And having said all of that, let's just get into today's case. So Valerie Graves was a 55-year-old woman born on the 25th of December 1958. Valerie had two adult children called Tim and Jemima, and she also had grandchildren who she absolutely adored. Valerie was a very talented artist, and she also actually used to own her own art gallery and kind of craft studio when she lived in Roxburghshire in Scotland. I'm not really sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Everyone who knew Valerie just described her as such a caring and selfless woman. She would always put other people before herself. In fact, shortly before her death in December of 2013, she actually picked up and moved to Bracklesham Bay in West Sussex to become a carer for her elderly mother, Eileen. And Valerie did not mind doing this at all for her mother. She, like I said before, was just so caring and selfless, and she would just do anything that anyone needed her to do.
A few days before Christmas 2013, Valerie, her mother Eileen, her sister Jan and her sister's partner Nigel Ackers decided to house sit for some of Nigel's friends, the Chamberlain family, who were actually away on holiday with their children. This house that the four were actually staying in was actually a $1.6 million mansion located on Smugglers Lane in Bracklesham Bay. Several people visited the house over the course of the Christmas period, including many of Valerie's friends and family. And Valerie was staying in a ground floor bedroom at the back of the property. On the 29th of December 2013, at around 10 PM, Valerie excused herself and left the other three adults to go to bed. The next morning, Valerie's sister Jan and her partner Nigel were downstairs when they noticed that Valerie's bedroom door was open slightly. However, they didn't actually think anything of this and thought that Valerie may have gone to sleep in her mother Eileen's bedroom, or perhaps Valerie had simply just left the door open ajar. However, a while later, Jan noticed that Valerie still hadn't gotten up out of bed, so she decided to go and check on her sister. But when she went into her sister's bedroom, she was met with a horrific and bloody scene. She found the body of her sister, Valerie Graves, who had been bludgeoned to death.
So police and paramedics were called to the scene, however, unfortunately it was too late. Valerie was already dead. And this was quite clearly a crime scene. Valerie's bedroom was absolutely covered in blood. It had been such a brutal attack, and so a murder investigation was launched. Meanwhile, Valerie's body was taken for a post-mortem. The patio door in Valerie's bedroom that led to the back garden was actually found to be unlocked, and this was thought to have been the killer's entrance. Valerie's cause of death was from being bludgeoned to death with an object that was thought to have been a claw hammer. She had suffered very severe facial and head injuries, and it was determined that Valerie had probably died sometime around midnight. Meanwhile, Valerie's murder had everyone in the local areas in complete shock. Bracklesham Bay was normally a quiet, lovely, coastal touristy neighbourhood. Nothing like this had ever really happened before. So whilst police were doing their kind of normal inquiries, they were also questioning people around the local areas, and this included Valerie's families and friends. They were questioning Valerie's family and friends to just kind of get a better picture of who Valerie was as a person. Did she have any enemies, anyone who would benefit from her being dead? But her family could not think of anyone. Like I said earlier, Valerie was a very caring, very nice person, and her family just couldn't think of anyone that would want to to do this to her. The house where Valerie was murdered was obviously closed for days after her death so that police could conduct a proper investigation, a proper forensic sweep of the crime scene. However, unfortunately, there was barely any DNA or forensic evidence in the property, in Valerie's bedroom. There was literally nothing for police to go on. It was determined by pathologists that there wasn't really a struggle before Valerie's death. She was most likely asleep when the attack started. And so because of this, she wouldn't have had a chance to fight off her attacker because of her injuries. And this was probably why there was absolutely no DNA found at the crime scene, no DNA of the killer on Valerie's body, because if she had had a chance to try and defend herself, she probably would have been able to scratch the attacker, meaning that she would get his DNA under her fingernails. However, like I said, she was asleep when the attack started, so she didn't have a chance to try and defend herself and fight this person off. Then, 3 days after Valerie's murder, the weapon that was actually used to kill her, the claw hammer, was found. It was found by police search teams in Hoe Lane at the entrance to the driveway of Hart's Farm, approximately 600 metres away from the crime scene. I will put a picture on the screen of the hammer now. It was 30 centimetres in length. It had a distinctive red and black handle with the words "Forged Steel" embossed on it. So forensic tests were carried out on this claw hammer and it was confirmed to have been the weapon to have killed Valerie Graves. Valerie's DNA was found on the hammer as well as a partial DNA sample from the killer. However, this DNA sample of the killer was so small that it couldn't tell you really anything about this person. All that it could tell you was that it was a male, but it couldn't be tested against other DNA on the National DNA Database. It was kind of a useless piece of DNA.
A few weeks after the murder, on the 14th of January 2014, a 22-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of Valerie's murder. He was questioned and then released on bail and dropped as a suspect. It has not been revealed as to why this man was considered a suspect in Valerie Graves' murder, but as I have already said, he was dropped as a suspect and no charges were laid against him. In 2014, investigators were able to retrieve a small amount of DNA from the crime scene, and this, paired with DNA which was found on the murder weapon, meant that authorities could construct a partial DNA profile of the killer. Meaning if in future the killer's DNA is loaded onto the national database, police may be able to finally have a match. A reconstruction of this case was shown on Crime Watch in the hopes that it may bring forward new tips and leads, and over 9,500 people were questioned in regards to Valerie Graves' murder. However, nothing came of these interviews or public appeals. So there are a few theories surrounding this case. The first being that Valerie was actually killed as a result of mistaken identity. Was this murder a planned attack on the property's owners, the Chamberlains? Did the killer enter the property with the intent to kill one of the Chamberlain family, but did not actually realise they were on holiday at the time? The issue with this theory, however, is that if this was a personal and planned attack on a member of the Chamberlain family, surely the killer would have known that they were out of town and on holiday at the time. That is the only thing that I personally believe discredits this theory.
Or was this attack meant for Valerie all along? Was this a planned murder by someone who would benefit from Valerie being dead? At the beginning of the investigation, police believed this to be the most probable theory because of how brutal the attack was. Valerie was viciously attacked. This wouldn't have been a quick murder. This was a vicious, brutal attack. And so that kind of gives the impression that this was personal. One thing that some people have found quite odd in this whole investigation is the fact that whilst Valerie was being attacked, no one in the house heard it. No one said that they heard anything. No one heard Valerie scream or anything like that, which is a little bit odd considering how brutal the attack was. However, personally, when you think about the fact that they were in a £1.6 million mansion and Valerie was downstairs and I believe all the other adults were upstairs, it kind of makes sense that maybe they didn't hear her. This was a big house, and also, like I've said before, Valerie was killed while she was asleep, so maybe she didn't scream, maybe she didn't even have a chance to scream. The public have also speculated over the years that maybe Valerie's ex, Roy Wood, may have had something to do with the murder, because he was her ex and this kind of stuff happens a lot. However, I believe police didn't look into him as a suspect because I don't think there was anything to link him to the crime, and also everyone said that Valerie and Roy were on really good terms, they were still good friends, and so he would have no reason to kill her. But one thing that really does support the theory that maybe Valerie knew her attacker and willingly let them into the property was because her bedroom door, the patio door, was unlocked. Of course, she could have left it unlocked herself, but this was a £1.6 million mansion. I don't know. I mean, I know that I wouldn't leave a back door unlocked, but that's just me. I know a lot of people do leave their doors unlocked. But to me, it's a very possible theory that maybe Valerie did know her attacker and she did willingly let them into the property, because I just couldn't understand why someone who was staying in someone else's house would leave the back door unlocked. The third theory in the case was that maybe this was a robbery gone wrong. Like I've said throughout this video, Valerie was staying in a £1.6 million mansion. It's not unlikely that a robber would see an opportunity and think, I'm going to rob this house. Maybe a burglar came into the property and encountered Valerie and panicked and just decided to kill her. However, the problem with this theory, like said multiple times in this video, is that Valerie was thought to have been asleep when the attack started, and so it seems kind of unlikely that a burglar would come into the property, see that Valerie was asleep, and kill her anyway, even though he hadn't been caught out yet. But also, as far as I'm aware, there was nothing missing from the property, nothing was reported stolen or anything like that, so again, this makes this theory seem kind of unlikely. Why would he go into the property with the intent to rob and then not rob anything? In December of 2014, 1 year after Valerie's murder, her family actually made a fresh appeal to the public, urging anyone with any information to come forward.
Nigel, I know that Tim's already touched on this, but in your words, what would you say to anybody? What would you appeal for now if someone is watching this?
Well, it's hard to comprehend. Somebody out there must know more, and we would implore people, if you've got any information, go to the police. There's enough police presence in the area, and then we're told that there's going to be over the Christmas and the anniversary date. Please speak to them. Just tell them, even if it's something that they may think is insignificant, just talk to them, and you never know, something might come of it. That's all we can ask for.
And in January of 2015, Sussex police actually began the biggest voluntary DNA mass screening in its history. A voluntary DNA screening is basically where police urge all men over the age of 17 years old to come to the police station to the screening and give their DNA voluntarily. And then with this, forensics would take their DNA and test it against the DNA profile of the killer just to see if a match would come up. Obviously, it's very unlikely that the killer himself will walk in and give his DNA, and police know that, they're fully aware of that. However, what they kind of hope for in these situations is that a relative of the killer will come in and give their DNA, because a relative of the killer will have very similar DNA to the killer's DNA, and so hopefully through that way, police could finally find a match. But also, as well as that, it will just rule people out. So far, over 2,700 DNA samples have been taken from men in the area and tested against the DNA profile of Valerie's killer. And obviously that meant that these men that had voluntarily given their DNA could be ruled out, and police could start looking at the men who haven't submitted their DNA, and it's just a lot easier for police that way. There is currently a £10,000 reward on offer for anyone who has any information regarding this case that may lead to an arrest. And 6 years on, police are still actively looking into this case. I'm going to leave some details in the description if you have any information regarding this case. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this case. A huge thank you to Daughter of Remus for collabing with me on this video. I will leave her channel in the description and in the iCard in the corner. Make sure after this video you head on straight over to her channel to watch the video that we did over there. And I will see you again very, very soon for another mystery with Molly. Bye.